Facts on who is really the federal government. First, in 1863, Lincoln instituted martial law. He ordered that the states, people, either conscribe troops and provide money in support of the North or be recognized as an enemy of the nation. This martial law act of Congress is still in effect today. What it means is that the president has dictatorial authority to do anything that can be done by the government in accord with the Constitution of the United States of America. This is the foundation of presidential executive orders. Second, the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871 created a private corporation hereinafter Corp. U.S., owned and operated by the actual government for the purpose of carrying out the business needs of the government under martial law. This was done under the constitutional authority for Congress to pass any law within the 10-mile square of Washington, District of Columbia. Third, in said act, Corp. U.S. adopted their own constitution, United States Constitution, which was identical to the National Constitution of the United States of America, except that it was missing the National Constitution's 13th Amendment. The National Constitution's 13th, 14th and 15th Amendments are respectively numbered 14th, 15th and 16th Amendments in their Constitution. Fourth, the corporation began to generate debts via bonds etc., which came due in 1912. But they could not pay their debts, so the 7 families that bought up the bonds demanded payment and Corp. U.S. could not pay. Said families settled the debt for the payments of all of Corp. U.S. assets and for all of the assets of the Treasury of the United States of America. Fifth, as 1913 began, Corp. U.S. had no funds to carry out the necessary business needs of the government, so they went to said families and asked if they could borrow some money. The families said no. Corp. U.S. had already demonstrated that they would not repay their debts in full. The families had foreseen this situation and had the year before finalized the creation of a private corporation of the name Federal Reserve Bank. Corp. U.S. formed a relationship with the Federal Reserve Bank whereby they could transact their business via note rather than with money. Notice that this relationship was one made between 2 private corporations and did not involve government. That is where most people err in understanding the Federal Reserve Bank system. Again, it has no government relation at all. The private contracts that set the whole system up even recognize that if anything therein proposed is found illegal or impossible to perform, it is excluded from the agreements and the remaining elements remain in full force and effect. Sixth, almost simultaneously with the last fact, also in 1913, Corp. U.S. passes and adopts, as if ratified, their own 16th Amendment. It must be noted that this amendment has nothing to do with our nation, with our people, or with our national constitution, which already had its own 16th Amendment. The Supreme Court ruled that it did nothing that was not already done other than to make plain and clear the right of the United States Corp. U.S. to tax corporations. We agree, considering that they were created under the authority of Corp. U.S. 7th. Next. Also 1913 Congress passed and entered the 17th Amendment as ratified, even though the states had no opportunity to ratify the same. This amendment is not only not ratified, it is not constitutional. The Constitution forbids Congress from even discussing the matter of where senators are elected. 8th. In 1914, the freshman class and all senators that successfully ran for re-election in 1913 by popular vote are seated in Corp. U.S. capacity only. 9th. In 1917, Corp. U.S. enters World War I and passes their emergency war powers, and trading with the enemies acts. 10th. In 1918, President Wilson is re-elected by the Electoral College, but their election is required to be confirmed by the constitutionally set Senate, where in the new Corp. U.S., only senators were allowed to participate in the Electoral College vote confirmation. The only authority that could possibly have been used for electoral confirmation was corporate only. Therefore, President Wilson was not confirmed into office for his second term as President of the United States of America and was only seated in the Corp. U.S. presidential capacity. Therefore, the original jurisdiction government seats were vacated because the people didn't seat any original jurisdiction government officers. 11th. In 1933, the Trading with the Enemies Act is adjusted to recognize the people of the United States of America as enemies of Corp. U.S. 12th. In 1944, under the Bretton Woods Agreement, Corp. U.S. is quit-claimed to the International Monetary Fund, and becomes a foreign-controlled private corporation. 13th. Sometime after 1935, You ask Social Security Administration for a relationship with their program. They create an entity with a name that sounds like your name but is spelled with all capital letters, and a depository account number in the Social Security General Trust Fund (GTF). They give you the Social Security card, which identifies you as the single person with authority to control the entity they created. On review, you may notice that the Social Security Administration was the creator of the entity. The GTF is its beneficiary and you were made its trustee. More importantly, this capacity does not limit you or your capacity to act in your sovereign capacity in any way. 14th. In 1968, at the National Governors Conference in Lexington, Kentucky, the IMF leaders of the event proposed the dilemma the state governors were in for carrying out their business dealings in Federal Reserve notes, foreign notes, which is forbidden in the national and state constitutions, alleging that if they did not do something to protect themselves, the people would discover what had been done with their money and would likely kill them all and start over. They suggested the states form corporations like Corp. US and showed the advantages of the resultant uniform codes that could be created, which would allow better and more powerful control over the people.